They called me a failure while cutting the turkey, but they had no idea their failure owned the company that supplied half the food on that table. The night my life split into a before and an after happened on Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving dinner at my parents' house was supposed to be warm, nostalgic, filled with the smell of buttered rolls and cinnamon pie. But all I smelled was judgment and why Mother carved the turkey like she was carving out every mistake I had ever made. Why Father sat at the head of the table, swirling his wine like a critic analyzing a painting he already hated. My older brother, Ethan, Harvard graduate, family favorite, golden child, smirked across the table like he was waiting for the show. IT began small. So, Lily, my mother said casually, still hopping from one little job to the next? My throat tightened. I wasn't job hopping. I was running Aurora Analytics, a cybersecurity company I built in a rented garage. I had 250 employees, government contracts, and cleared $25 million last year. But they never cared to know. Before I could answer, Ethan jumped in. Mom, she can't hold a job. Let it go. Some people just peak in high school. Laughter, glasses clinking and eyes on me like I was pathetic. My father slammed his hand on the table. I'm tired of her excuses. You're almost 30, Lily. A failure. A burden. You want to be treated like an adult? Then act like one. I stayed quiet. Not because I was weak, because I was calculating. Then he said the line that cut deeper than the knife in my mother's hand. If you're not paying rent, you're not living here. Get out. Go live in the streets, maybe then you'll learn something. Everyone stared, everyone waited for me to break, but instead, I smiled because I could buy the entire neighborhood if I wanted. I could buy their house in cash, but they didn't deserve to know that. So I stood up, tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, and said softly, okay. If that's what you want. I walked out into the cold November air with nothing but my purse, not because I had nowhere to go, but because I had somewhere better to be. As I drove away in my unmarked Tesla, they thought I borrowed it. I whispered to myself, 3 weeks. That's all I'll need. Revenge had already begun simmering, slow, quiet, perfect, 3 weeks. That was all it took to turn humiliation into a masterpiece. While my family imagined me homeless, sleeping under bridges or begging for change, I was actually in my penthouse overlooking Manhattan, a penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows, a private elevator, and a monthly rent higher than my parents' yearly salary. Day 1. I called my legal team. Day 2. I called my board. Day 3. I started crafting a plan so poetic it felt like fate had written it. See, my family had no idea about one thing. My company had just secured a government security contract worth $180 million. The project required leasing land. Land that happened to be owned by my parents. For years, they bragged about the abandoned industrial lot my grandfather left them. They thought it was worthless. I knew it was gold. So instead of approaching them myself, I sent my acquisition team. In suits, with badges, with legal papers and numbers. That made people dizzy. My parents had no idea their failure daughter was behind the offer. When my father heard the price, $4.2 million for land he didn't even maintain, he nearly fainted. He bragged to everyone in town about how he was finally striking it rich. Meanwhile, I prepared the second part of my revenge, the ribbon-cutting ceremony, requested that the governor attend, local press, business leaders, investors, and, using a fake assistant email, I sent my parents a formal invitation. You are respectfully invited to the grand opening of Aurora Analytics' newest national security facility. Dress code, formal. They had no idea that I was Aurora. They had no idea I was the founder, the CEO, the visionary. 3 weeks passed in a swirl of perfect planning. The night before the ceremony, as I stood on the penthouse balcony, champagne in hand, I finally allowed myself to feel the burn I had kept down for years, the burn of being unloved, underestimated, dismissed. But tomorrow, I would walk onto a stage built on the land they sold me, and they would learn exactly who their useless failure had become. The morning of the ceremony felt electric. Stepped out of the black SUV in a navy blue power suit, heels clicking, hair in a sleek bun, every inch of me radiating the success they never believed I could have. Camera flashes, newspapers. Security teams greeting me with, "Good morning, Miss Hayes." Yes, Hayes. I stopped using my family name years ago. Inside the crowd, I spotted them. My parents saw my brother, standing in the VIP section, dressed like royalty, unaware that the kingdom belonged to the daughter they threw out. My father nudged my mother. Where's the CEO? The papers say she's some young woman. Probably some trust fund brat, Ethan muttered, almost laughed. When the announcer stepped up to the mic, I saw the exact moment their world flipped. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the founder and CEO of Aurora Analytics, the visionary behind this national project, Ms. Lily Hayes. My mother froze. My father's mouth fell open. Ethan went pale, and I walked on stage, calm, graceful, unstoppable. The applause felt like justice. I gave my speech, thanking the governor, the investors, the state. Then I looked directly at my family as I said, and thank you to the landowners who unknowingly made this possible. Your contribution was invaluable. I saw the realization hit them like a truck after the ceremony. They rushed toward me. Lily, my mother stuttered, why didn't you tell us? My father forced a smile. We're proud of you, sweetheart. Truly. Ethan added, I always knew you'd succeed. I gave them the same smile I gave the night they kicked me out, did you? I asked softly. My father swallowed hard. Look, let's forget the past. You can come home. We'll celebrate. I stepped closer, my voice silky but sharp. You threw me out and told me to live in the streets. We didn't mean it, oh, but I did. I held up the folder my lawyers prepared. I bought your house. Your mortgage is now under my company. You have 30 days to vacate. Their faces collapsed, and don't worry, I added with a cold smile, I hear the streets are educational. I turned away, my security team falling in line behind me. Justice wasn't loud. IT wasn't violent. IT was quiet. Precise. Perfect, and as I walked back toward my SUV, the same line echoed in my mind. They called me a failure while cutting the turkey, but they didn't know I owned half the table.